been my good luck to bring some great speakers here to join us for this annual event, this event that fires us up. And I called my good friend Joe Biden a few months ago, and I said, Joe, it's the biggest Democratic audience in the state of Illinois in any given year. And he said, I'll be there. And I said, Joe, you've got to ask your scheduler if you're going to be there. He said, I'll be there, and I'll call you back and confirm it, and he did. And I know we were all anxious and looking forward to it. And then 2 days ago, laryngitis struck to a point where he couldn't even talk to me on the phone. And they said, he can't make it, but he's going to make it up to you. He's coming back to Illinois. He's going to help you before November. And we're counting on Joe Biden coming back because we love him. So then I thought, with less than 2 days to go, what am I going to do? I got an awful lot of folks who are going to be showing up in Springfield. And I started calling around and asking, and I called Sherry Bustos. And I said to Sherry, Sherry, give me some names. Give me some people. And she said, well, there's a mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who's made quite an impression on a lot of people. I said, what's his name? And she said, I'm not sure. But they call him Mayor Pete. And I said, well, I'm going to try to figure out what his name is so I can call him and ask him. I'm going to try to pronounce it, Pete, one time, and then from then on it's Mayor Pete. Buttigieg? Got it. Woo! Mayor Pete Buttigieg. The Washington Post said he's the most interesting mayor you've never heard of. In the New York Times, they said if you want some laboratory to concoct a perfect Democratic candidate, you'd be hard-pressed to improve on Pete Buttigieg. David Axelrod, a fellow we know and respect, who helped us elect one of the greatest presidents in the history of the United States, said that Pete is going to be a force in the Democratic Party. And our President, Barack Obama himself, branded him as the future of the Democratic Party. Let me tell you a couple things about him that you ought to know. A bachelor's from Harvard, a master's from Oxford, a Rhodes Scholar, grew up in South Bend, Indiana, decided to run for mayor of that town. In 2012, the voters gave him a 74% winning margin. At 29, he was the youngest mayor of any American city of over 100,000 people. He was reelected in 2015 with an 80% margin. But he hadn't been there for the first term, not all of it, because he decided to volunteer into the Navy Reserves, and he was sent to Afghanistan, where he served our country for 7 months during that period of time. Thank you, Mayor. He was knocking on doors in Iowa for Barack Obama in 2008. He really saw the people of that state as we see the people of our state and came to understand what he believes their values are and what we as Democrats should speak to. This past June, Pete married his partner, a middle school teacher who had earned his master's degree at DePaul University. They have a dog, a rescue mutt named Truman. Not a bad choice. He had a brief run to be chairman of the Democratic National Committee and made a lot of friends, including our President Cullerton, who supported him for that position. I believe that we have in Mayor Pete the next generation of leadership in the Democratic Party of the United States of America. Let's give him a big Illinois Democratic welcome. Mayor Pete, come on up here.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Senator, for that kind introduction, for the invitation. Thank you, Congresswoman Bustos, for saying something nice about me. To so many people here who gave me the time of day when I was running for DNC chair, people I'm just getting to know, and people I've come to admire so much, especially the extraordinary candidates that we're going to stand into office from the county all the way up to the federal level. I am so proud to be among you today. It is a great honor to be invited here, even knowing that I may have been invited here as an act of desperation. Makes you reflect on exactly how a 36-year-old small city Midwestern mayor with an unpronounceable name, Buttigieg, by the way, but everybody just calls me Pete, and that's fine. finds himself before the biggest gathering of Democrats in the state of Illinois. What a great opportunity. Trying to fill the shoes of an American giant like Joe Biden. We wish him well and a speedy recovery, and I know he'll be here as soon as he gets a chance. So I'll try to do right by this occasion. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of seeing it for yourselves, I'm the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, my hometown, an industrial city on the banks of the St. Joe River, home, of course, to the University of Notre Dame, and a lot of other great schools. And that's pretty much been my world most of the last 7 years. Until a couple years ago, it was rare for me to do national politics. If I got invited to speak somewhere outside of Indiana, it usually was on the subject of civic, technology, or wastewater. I will have you know that South Bend is the first city, one of the first cities in the world, to use artificial intelligence to manage our wastewater system. The smartest sewers in the world. I can talk about sewers even longer than Joe Biden can talk about the world leaders he's known over the years. But I can sense a little nervous energy in the room, so just to be clear, I do know how to read a crowd. I am conscious that you did not come here to see me speak about wastewater. I'm conscious that most of you did not come here to see me speak at all. And I didn't come here to talk about sewers either, even though clean, safe drinking water is one of my favorite subjects. I didn't come here just because. I did not come here because it was a slow day in South Bend, Indiana. And I did not come because I was so flattered by the invitation, even though, of course, I am. I came here because I heard there was going to be a room full of Midwestern Democrats, next-door neighbors to my state, many from conservative areas, who make up the very backbone of our movement. And I didn't want to miss a chance to tell you why I am so energized and so optimistic about our party and about our country. Don't get me wrong. I asked myself that question that Senator Durbin talked about too. Are we okay? And we might as well start with the bad news. The state, I don't need to tell this crowd, the state of the nation right now is like those weird dreams you have when you had the wrong kind of food at night. The President of the United States is basically a disgraced game show host. His campaign chairman is on trial for money laundering. His appointees have taken corruption and grift to levels not seen in the U.S. cabinet in modern times, and his vice president, one heartbeat away from the Oval Office, is a social extremist, the likes of which our country has not known in national office. Trust me, I know one. And that's just the federal level. Soon we will have a new governor in the state of Illinois. Could not help but notice that your current governor referred to Mike Pence, who believes cigarettes don't cause cancer and thinks the Disney movie Mulan is dangerous liberal propaganda, called him one of the great leaders in American history. You're from Illinois. You produced Abraham Lincoln and Barack Obama. And you think Mike Pence is one of the great leaders in American history? I cannot wait to see a new governor in the state of Illinois. So yes, it's tough times in even remotely balanced media and social circles. There's not even a debate over whether the leader of the free world is routinely telling vicious and consequential lies. The only debate is on whether it even matters. For a shockingly large share of our fellow Americans, being caught on a tape arranging hush money for a porn star doesn't disqualify you for office. You really think they're going to care if they hear a different word on a different tape? We have seen children in cages. We have seen alliances in tatters. We have seen global respect for our government and our country fall through the floor. The integrity and freedom of our independent press has come under assault. And whatever fragile and imperfect grasp we were beginning to get on racial and social justice has been pried back loose and set back decades. Hate crimes are up. Regular crimes are up after going down for decades. Cases of everyday bullying are up. The economic recovery that began a decade ago under President Obama, let's not forget that economic recovery continued. But it has grown even more unequal. It's propelling us to levels of inequality that in world history are almost never seen without being followed by economic shocks, social unrest, and sometimes political violence. And the best minds of our country are transfixed with a mesmerizing horror show of day-to-day madness on cable news that resembles the reality television that produced the president that we currently have. While our country comes eyeball to eyeball with the modern threats of foreign interference in our elections, climate change-related destruction of our cities, and a dramatic increase in a category that didn't used to exist, deaths from despair, of which opioids and fentanyl may only be the beginning. I have had to personally call medics for an overdose victim. I have personally talked to decent-seeming men and women who sincerely believe lies fed to them by foreign governments engaged in information warfare, and I have twice had to run my city from an emergency operations center as flood waters rose, first from a 1,000-year rainfall and then from a 500-year flood, less than 3 years apart in the same place. And our party has been roughed up just about as good as our country, even though most Americans agree with us on most of the issues. We somehow lost state and national legislative seats. I know I keep returning to this theme, but including the governorship here in Illinois. And granted, there were some challenges here, some financial challenges, which I guess was part of the message that I'm going to come in and run it like a business and clean it up. Admittedly, there were some financial challenges, but when this governor was handed lemons, he took those lemons and miraculously turned them into a dumpster fire. What kind of business runs like that? And our party had trouble explaining its message. While the other side was losing its mind, our side felt like we were losing our voice, unable to explain our values. And now, with gerrymandering and money in politics and voter ID laws, even when more people vote for us, sometimes we can be shut out of office. So things could be better. And yet I am as energized and as optimistic as at any time in my lifetime. And even though I'm speaking to you from my tender age, I would say at any time in modern times, there has never been such excitement, such potential for our party and for our country. And I came to Springfield just so that I could tell you the two reasons why I'm so optimistic. The first reason is South Bend, my city, my hometown. Many of you know her. If you don't, you may not realize our story isn't all about the Golden Dome and the football games and Touchdown Jesus. Before we were a football town, we were a factory town. We made cars and car parts, Studebakers. We were a company town that lost our company when Studebaker fell apart. I grew up surrounded by empty factories and empty houses, a broken city. In 2011, Newsweek came along. They did a story on 10 American dying cities, and they called us one of those dying cities. We had double-digit unemployment, people were moving out, and our city was shrinking. And the neighborhood where I got started, not that far from the Golden Dome, had become a poster child for the so-called Rust Belt. That was the year I ran for mayor, because I loved my hometown. I believed in my city, and a lot of other people did too. And 7 years later, I am proud to report to you that our city is growing again. We came together and dealt with over 1,000 vacant and abandoned houses. We rebuilt our downtown. We reimagined our infrastructure and saw population grow at the fastest rate in a quarter century. We still make things. We still manufacture things. And right alongside those advanced manufacturing facilities and the workers there, we've got workers in jobs like data analytics that didn't even exist when the last Studebaker rolled off the line. We have found a way to get to our future. Not through nostalgia, not through resentment. I didn't go around saying we were going to bring back Studebaker jobs or make South Bend great again. Obviously, it wasn't just me. You did not see me or anyone else in our city going around beating our chests saying things like, "I alone can fix it." Don't trust anybody who says, "I alone can fix it." Bullshit. But the one thing that can fix it is a community coming together, supporting, creating, innovating, helping each other get through it. And we've still got a lot of challenges ahead. But our city stands as living proof that the best way to harness the creativity of the ancestors who gave us the industrial working and middle class is not to try to recreate the society they lived in the past, but to emulate the focus that they had on the future. So that's my first reason for optimism. It is woven through my experience as a mayor here in the Midwest. And the second reason is my experience as a human being. Because today's a little anniversary for me. As the senator mentioned, today, 2 months ago, today I got married to the love of my life. Thank you. Still getting used to it. And like probably everybody else here, my family is the most important thing in my world. A good moment with my spouse, or a difficult one, decides whether my day will be a good day or a bad day. As a general rule, the well-being of my family has more power over my happiness than anything that happens to me at work and anything that I see on the news. It's a little family for now. You heard about Truman. Called him that because he's the one that said in politics, if you want a friend, get a dog. So we got our dog. We're thinking about kids. And like all of you, I would put my life on the line for my family. And like some of you, I live with the knowledge that there are people in power today who would, if they could, deny my family the right legally even to exist for the simple reason that my spouse is a husband and not a wife. So you see, this isn't academic for me. It's personal. It's existential. It's not that I don't feel like going back, it is that I literally can't. Politics isn't something I experience mostly through television or through Twitter. It is the decisions made by other people that control whether my day, my year, my life will go well or not. Politics is real life for me, not because I am a politician, but because I am an American. And no one has more at stake. No one than my generation, except perhaps the one coming up after us. I'm 7 years in, long in the tooth by mayoral standards, but I'm 36 years old, born in January, so that means by a matter of days, I count technically as a millennial. And there's a lot more to that generational experience than using your phone a lot and not knowing how to drive stick shift. It means that I belong to the generation that sees the business end of climate change and is going to have to live with its consequences. I belong to the generation that will pay the bill for the enormous tax cuts for billionaires that this president and Congress pushed through. I belong to the school shooting generation. Columbine was my junior year in high school. We're also the generation, though, that finally got a shot at something approaching universal health care. That's how Chasten got his health insurance while he was going through graduate school, which brings me to the fact that we're the student debt generation, too. Matter of fact, if nothing changes, we stand to be the first generation in America to make less than our parents. And I promise you, it is not for lack of pitching in, because we are also the generation that provided most of the troops who have fought in the global war on terror. When the current president and his sons were busy working on season 7 of Celebrity Apprentice, I was busy driving and guarding vehicle convoys outside the wire in Afghanistan. And every time I got into that vehicle with my body armor and the pistol on my hip and the rifle around my sling, the people who got in the vehicle with me trusted their lives to me, and I knew that I was trusting my life to everybody in my chain of command, from the major to the colonel to the secretary to the president and the Congress that oversees them. And when you realize how much your family and your health and your finances and your life depend on the decisions of politicians, when you write a letter and fold it up in an envelope and put "just in case" on it, and put it where your family knows where to find it, you know that policy and politics, it isn't just local, it's personal. It is life and death for all of us. So you see, I do not have the luxury of pessimism. None of us has the luxury of pessimism today. Good thing we're organized. Good thing we're energized. Good thing there's thousands of people in this room, so many that they had to fill another room and pipe this thing in through the TV system. Because this is what the blue wave looks like. That beautiful blue wave that's going to bring people into office, from the governor to the county offices, to those extraordinary candidates for Congress. I can't wait to walk from Robin Kelly's office to Brendan Kelly's office on Capitol Hill. To say hello to Congresswoman Underwood on the way and all the other fantastic candidates you saw here. I can't wait. So we better win. How do we do it? Well, three things. First of all, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we contest every race up and down the ballot. Every single race. Republicans figured this out a long time ago. Getting in on school boards and building up state house majorities. Now is time for Democrats to stop treating the presidency like it's the only office that matters. Second, we organize not only at every level, but in every county and every community, everywhere across the state and every state. This is not just the party of the coasts, and it is not just the party of the cities. No more giving up on red or rural areas. This idea that downstate can't be won. Red counties and Republican states weren't always that way. Where is it written that they always will be? We can change that. But third, and most of all, when we knock on those doors and make those phone calls, on our lips there must be not just the failures of those in power today, though they be many. So many. But we got to talk about our values, democratic values, which are American values. We got to talk about freedom. Republicans talk about freedom all the time, but all they mean is freedom of regulation. I'm talking about real freedom, like being able to start a new business or change jobs, because you have that freedom knowing that you can get access to quality, affordable health care no matter what. I'm talking about the freedom that when your credit card company rips you off, you can sue them. How about that kind of freedom? Or the freedom to drive in a car or walk in your own neighborhood or browse through a department store without worrying you will be made to feel unwelcome because of the color of your skin. Don't let anybody tell you different. We are the party of freedom. And we are the party of family values. Don't let the other side own that either. Family values, like making sure that somebody who puts in an honest day's work can live on the wages that they bring home because they're organized. Letting anybody, family values like anybody who knows how to love and support a spouse, being able to form a family with whoever they can damn well get to say, I do. And the family values that say we will never, ever again be a country that pries children out of mother's arms. As if children from persecuting countries were some of the greatest republic in the world ought to be afraid of. And yes, we are going to talk about greatness. I think we should. You don't always hear this on our side of the aisle, but I believe in American greatness. And I believe we should talk about a great America because we know a great country isn't afraid of the future. Even if that future has threats coming, even if it is one where border security isn't enough because we got to face the challenges of cybersecurity and election security and cybersecurity. A great country isn't afraid. A great country knows it can either resent the rest of the world or lead the rest of the world, but it cannot do both, and it chooses to lead. A great country puts up no barriers to success in life for somebody whose race or faith or love or age or ability or birthplace makes them different. It supports people who are different, not because they are different, but because they are people. That is why we bother with all of this. Our values. That's what it's about. All of this. Elections and the parties and the stickers and the yard signs. And the speakers in hotel ballrooms. That's what it's all for. Not thumping your chest, not a slogan on a red hat made in China. It's American greatness, and you find it in the American every day. I saw it in the eyes of teenage recruits getting on a bus at dark 30 in Des Plaines to go to military medical processing. Just like I saw it when my 5-year-old gaze first fell on the Chicago skyline from the backseat of my parents' car when they took us on Stony Island off the Skyway Bridge to show their little boy what a big city looks like. That's what our greatness looks like. And it is up to us, not the man in the White House, but every one of us, to make America great. And it has nothing to do with again. There is no again in real life. And there doesn't have to be, especially for a country whose truest quality has always been that she looks to the future. So picture where your American greatness happens. Picture your family. Picture your room, your street, your community and your county, your state and your country. It looks the way it does today because people made it so. The people in leadership and the people who placed them there, under our Constitution. We are those people. We, the people. What will our most treasured places, our community look like tomorrow? That is up to us, and that is why we're here. So are we ready? Do we know what we are fighting for? Then I will see you on the campaign trail, and I can't wait to celebrate with you in November. Thank you.